Hi,
Hello.
Michelle.
Hi, Marisa.
Hi. Oh, I see Michael. He's in the background.
Yeah.
Michael, so sweet. Oh, I can't wait to hear about your trip.
Yes, it's awesome. I mean, oh my goodness. Until now, like we're crazy about the trip. Like, that's your suggestion of really extending like when we talk about Baguio and then um incorporating the lessons based on our experiences there. So it makes us like reliving the Baguio moment very, for a long time. So like they're all wanting to go back there again. I said, yeah, we just go there like once a year. Like we can't go there twice a year.
That's wonderful. Wouldn't it be incredible if you took vacations in trips, and it doesn't have to be anything big like Baguio, but and just taught from those experiences.
That's right. That's true. Um, because the moment you gave me the idea or taught me to create a lesson plan around that vacation. So then I realized, yeah, it would really be very interesting. Like for example, for Sylvia, when we talked about Baguio, then when we went to Baguio, then she was easy to connect that we traveled from region. We are from region 2, Cagayan Valley, and then we travel down to region 1 and then go back up to Car, which is the third region. So she said, wow, for this travel, we crossed 3 regions already of the Philippines. Yeah, so that's really something, right? Like she could remember instead of just, trying to remember the map and memorize those places. So it's really more what you call this, really ingrained in, yeah, it's really already learned. And then, huh?
Because of the experience.
Yes, because of the experience. And then, like for here, I could, try to show you now what they have done a little?
I would love to see it. Yes.
Okay. Like for example, for Michael, though on his book, yeah, workbook, the money and the time would be tackled supposed to be about like a month from now. We're not really that near. But then I thought, well, it would be nice to um this talk about this now. It might be interested with it already, which is really very true because like for example, the how to tell time, and then the measurement, what you call this. Like for example here, this is his journal. So it's like,
Beautiful.
okay, so go kart. And then I said, okay, so when you rode the go kart, we rented the go kart for 30 minutes. And then 30 minutes, it means half hour or half an hour. And then I said, so example, we started at 3. So what time should you return the cart? So this is like his lesson on time. So he drew the clock and then the time. So from 3 o'clock, we should be finished by 3:30. And then, of course, we have a lot of different scenarios. And then, just with this alone, we just go kart alone. So he actually knew how to read the clock per hour because every day I also ask him to, oh, what time is it, Michael? So, every so often I check. So every time he would go and look at the clock, and then we review. Sometimes he misses, sometimes it's correct, right? So I said, oh, okay, so this is something we also really could do because I'm just, when talked about all these things, I know they have tackled this before, but then of course they forgot, right? They like I realized that yeah, they forgot about this already, even though it was tackled in nursery. And then also this was supposed to be on the later part of their workbook. And then I just said, okay, let's just skip some parts and then go ahead with this one. So I just find it, you know, useful actually, Marisa, because when we talked about this first like this, and then I asked him to answer his workbook, it was very easy already for him because like we have discussed it this way. And then when answering his workbook, he was able to do it already.
Why do you think your learning has been taken to another level? What do you think it is about, because I see Michael, you were saying things like he's getting it, like the
Yeah.
time and
Yeah.
the dry. I mean, he's getting it. Why do you think the learning is sticking?
Yeah, because perhaps it's fun. He had the experience, and then it's because of the actual application. Because I asked him, okay, if we start at this time, what time should we return the card? Something like that.
Exactly. Michelle, he's living what he's learning, right? He's living it. And so everything is sticking because he's experiencing it. He's actually living it as he's learning it. So how beautiful. And so
Yeah.
that's why I think your homeschooling, you're seeing a whole different level, right? Because of
True.
that vacation.
Yes, that's really true. And then also for Sylvia, of course, I asked her more difficult scenarios like quarter an hour and so forth. Also in terms of time, just because of that go kart. So there's a lot of activity. However, um, for Sylvia, we just cannot discuss it yet. I have not I have not given her yet, worksheets to answer, but that will definitely come out very soon. And then like for Michael also we incorporated nouns and in English, right? Because he has nouns, verbs, adjectives, something like that. So yeah, this is also like it's a little bit messy, but then okay, so he has strawberry ice cream. So of course you would understand that the noun would be like the flower or the strawberry or the ice cream, and then what is the verb? And so it would play out with all the verbs: touch, smell, or like for the strawberry, we ate the strawberry, so this is the verb. And then for the adjective, so it's like the color of the flower, or the
Michelle,
hello,
yes, no,
yes.
I'm listening. I don't want our audio to, get choppy. So that's why I'm just listening
Oh, okay.
speak. Um, Michelle, this is amazing, and I love it. And it's making me making me smile. I have to ask you, what has it been like as a homeschool parent teaching your children when they get excited and when they're truly learning and when it's sticking?
The it really has like it was really what you call this life changing because I'm not anymore very much stressed with the books that we have to finish today like that, because I realized, okay, by this very concrete examples, even though we're driving or we're riding, and then I could ask them all these questions, and then they could actually um, what you call this, you could actually do the review. So like the whole time we're not really bound to these worksheets and these workbooks, because I realized, okay, so this is really how it is for them to actually learn and for their learning to really stick. So even if just, we're driving, so I asked Michael, okay, so what are we doing now? That we're riding in the car. Okay, so what is the noun? It's the car. What is the verb? It's riding. So I find it really refreshing. I mean, it's really nice to know that there are a lot of ways to incorporate learning in the midst of the activities that we are doing. So there.
I love it. So, Michelle, based on what you learned and how you taught and how the kids learned during that trip, what are you going to apply now that you're back home?
Yeah, so I have to do the less, I mean, to approach it the opposite way, because what I mean by that is, I know what the lessons that we have to be tackling, so I have always to be alert as to, oh, this could be like, this experience, we could learn something from this. Like I was thinking of, okay, already teaching like Sylvia how to cut like cucumber or something. So I was already thinking, yeah, we could incorporate fractions and we could incorporate all these things. So it makes me more, what do you call this, more aware that learning is happening every time, like any hour of the day I could actually teach them. So I'm not really like bound to, okay, lesson start right now at this time and we end at this time. So I kind of slowly understand that it happens it happens all the time, and I'll just have to be always aware to always let them, give them some new learnings along the way.
And another thing I heard you say is it's easier than you thought.
Yes, actually. It is kind of, yeah, true, Marisa.
So the books make it more difficult for you,
I
really.
know. That's correct, because you have sometimes the books doesn't explain it very well, because I have to read and then apply, but then just realize, well, without the textbook there's really a lot that we also could learn, doing all these things. There's also another way about money. So like Michael, so we have touched also about money. Okay, so how much is the taho? Okay, so it's 25 pesos and something like that. So and then I asked him, he said, okay, so this is how much you give me the money, this is how much we pay. So that makes it really for me easier also to teach them, because for them they take up it as fun, and for me it's also like a stress-free way of assessing and trying, and also of giving them the knowledge and the necessary skills that they have to achieve according to yeah, according to what they need to know.
And Michelle, let's talk about that. I am just, first of all, I'm just so excited that your mindset about homeschooling is also sticking. Like, you
Thank
know,
you, Marita. It's all because of you. And then I'll show you also Sylvia, because Sylvia is always, she uses a lot of words, but well, she did document everything. How many pages is this? want. There's so many pages. Uh, this is her journal. So
Beautiful.
every day the places that we went to. So she really knows how to write. But of course, I have to check her grammar is okay. Her grammar is okay, but then there are things that she misses. So I asked her, okay, Sylvia, let's review about proper noun and common noun, because the proper nouns she usually forgets to make the first letter capital. So I asked her, okay, so can you give me all the proper nouns of the places that we went to and the names of the persons that you have met or animals? So this is what she did. So I said, okay, remember proper noun would be capital letter, common noun, so something like that. And then we'll talk also about the units of measure, so kilograms. So how do you measure the strawberries? Is it by piece, by kilogram, or all those things? So that's how we did our classes
Michelle,
lately.
I see that you're just so proud. I mean, just even as you're showing me what they've done,
Really?
a proud
Thank
homeschool mom.
you.
Yes. You mentioned, oh gosh, I wrote down the word and I don't even know what. I've been taking notes as you speak. The the obedience during
Mm,
the trip. Tell me what that was like, because I bet you got a lot more obedience during this trip than
yes.
you probably ever had. And tell me, why do you think that's so?
Oh, that's true. No, I have not even thought of that. But then recalling about our trip, yeah, they are really more obedient. But I think I don't know, because maybe they really have to depend on me because they don't know the place, they don't know anyone, they're not familiar with it. Or maybe because I really I really don't know. What do you why is it?
And I was just guessing, but I could tell just by what the activities that you were giving them, and you were telling them they did this and they did this and they did this. That shows me that they were extremely obedient. For them to have written all that and to journal all that, so when you instructed them, they did it. That's
Yes.
amazing. And why do you think a child or even adult, why do we obey? Why is it what makes what has to happen for us to obey?
Well, I think they also need to like it.
Exactly. You hit it right on the head. They're enjoying themselves. So obedience comes easily, right? Because they're having fun, and they're willing to do it,
Yes.
because the experience, you're giving them this memorable positive experience. So just keep that in mind. When you're finding too much challenges or struggle at home, it's probably because they're bored. Something's not right, because otherwise they would obey and it wouldn't be so hard. Just remember this trip. Remember, it wasn't so hard. Everything came easily. And that's because you're not home, and you're on a vacation, but you can replicate that at home. Maybe not
Okay.
all the time, but you can do that. You can bring that vacation experience to your home, don't you think?
Yes, yes, definitely. All right.
What do you think you can do now to replicate some of those experiences and bring them to the home, so that you guys are happier, so that there is more obedience, that you're learning a lot?
Yeah, so um yeah, I think one would be, incorporating some of the life skills in this lesson. Like I know Sylvia wants me to really teach her how to cook, which I have not yet because I'm kind of scared for her to handle knives, but I was already thinking of buying those not really sharp knives, that she could use to cut. So I was already thinking of that. And then we could talk about fractions and measurements and so forth. So I think it would be like that. Like, there's also one activity that we did during Easter, um, because for the Easter egg hunt, um, what I it was fun. They had fun decorating the eggs, and at the same time, for the Easter egg hunt, I made it like a challenge. So I gave them each a piece of paper, and then like for Sylvia, it was more difficult. For Michael, it wasn't so difficult because I also wanted to see how well they can read by themselves and understand written instructions. And then it was a click for the kids. Like for Sylvia, I incorporated directions north, east, southwest using a compass, not using a compass to find the eggs. Really, I went as far as really burying the egg under the ground, and then to give her measurement, like, okay, this is where branch lies, and the egg is buried northeast of where the branch where her lovebird was buried, and that's 1 feet 1 foot away, something like that. So she had to think, where is the direction, what is the distance, what is a foot, how how long is a foot. And so she was able to successfully dig the the egg at the proper place. And so they were after that activity they wanted more, something up like that. So I have not done it yet, but that was last Sunday for the Easter. So I was thinking, yes, that is really very possible for us um to incorporate or to do. So it's gonna be like, there has to really to be have fun. They really need to just love doing it, and then of course the learning I know is there. It will be absorbed in their brain than our usual worksheets. Of course, I'm not saying I'm gonna leave the worksheets behind. I really want them to still master, how to pass some tests, standardized test later on. But then the mode of instruction would, I'm looking at making it really different to make it more interactive and more fun for them.
Wonderful. And Michelle, you're right about the worksheets. We can't leave it behind, because the reality is your kids are going to go to a university or a college because they're so smart, and they'll probably get scholarships. Is my yeah, that's, I
I
know
really
that,
hope.
like in my spirit, yes. So that's the reality, right? That's how they take tests. That's how
Yeah,
school is. It's going to be that
that's
boring.
true. There's really standardized tests wherever. So,
Exactly. So we can't leave that behind. That's just a
mm,
reality. So
mm,
that's okay to incorporate that. But at this young age, you do less of that. And then as they
okay.
get older, you do more of it, because that's just how we measure what they've learned, right? But
Okay.
at this stage, it's all about fun. And you can still
Okay.
incorporate worksheets. When I would incorporate worksheets at this age, Michelle, is like when you're sick, okay, or when they're
Okay.
sick, when you're waiting somewhere for a long time, maybe you can take out, like a workbook. So it's more of like when
Okay.
they're not, when you can't physically um, collaborate with them or homeschool with them like you normally would. So you use these as aids, as
All
tools,
right.
you know,
Okay.
but you don't use,
Overdo it.
yes, but you don't use it as the first thing. We almost use it as the last thing.
Okay.
We don't, they're not going to have fun doing worksheets, but
I know.
exactly, and you as well. I mean, think about when we were growing up and we did worksheets. How boring, right? But
Yeah.
sometimes it's okay to pull that out when, depending on where we're at. Maybe in the car and you want to take a little nap. But you want them to be able to just work on something like their nouns. You could, or their proper nouns and know the difference, so you can give Sylvia just a quick worksheet. More of, you're not teaching her through the worksheet too. It's more for you to know if she's getting it, right?
Yeah.
Maybe that's when
Yeah.
you start to pull out the worksheets. It's
Yeah.
more like, okay, let me see. And you're that's when teachers gave you the tests, is to see if
Mm.
you were really, if everything was sticking. So
Yeah, true.
yeah, just use that as more of a tool, um, if if necessary, but otherwise we don't go there.
Okay.
um,
All right.
Wonderful.
Thank you for that.
Absolutely. So what? Another thing I wanted to, and as you're talking, I write little keywords to kind of trigger what I'd like you to speak to you about, and that is like Easter. I know you're a
Mm.
woman of faith, and I know, your faith in God is extremely important. And so remember, not just in Easter, but this is the time, Michelle, to be teaching your children about the Lord in everything,
Okay.
whether they're eating, whether they're writing, it's, train a child in the way he should go, and he will never depart from it. But notice the first word is to train. That means, when we train someone or something, like whether it be an animal or a person, it's constant. It never really ends. The training always continues because there's always so much to learn. That's why. Um, and so the same thing about the Lord. There's always something to learn about him. It's constant, it's never ending. But also, as you well know, it's enjoyable. So it's fun, to talk about him in everything that you do. So whether it be eating, whether it be looking out in Baguio, oh my gosh, look at the mountains. Look how beautiful. Can you believe God created that? So it's incorporating him in everything too. That's where you teach the religion, right?
Yeah.
It's also in your everyday activities. It's not necessarily where you open up a book on the Bible, which is good. I highly believe that you should open up the Word of God. But again, at this age, God will seem more real when you can just incorporate it in your everyday living.
Yeah. Actually, yes. What we have right now, if we talk that poem about God made all things bright and beautiful, all creatures great and small. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
Yes.
So they also always say something like, "Wow, is really God could create something like that?" Even the poem about the trees. So only God could make a tree. But I know I know there's still a lacking element, and then so I'm not I'm not quite sure because like right now we're reading the gospel every day, every morning. That's really part of our routine to read the gospel of the day. And then I think after that, that's about it. I just leave it at that because I don't really know how we are going to leave that word for the day, or yeah. So can you give me some idea? And then
Yeah.
I want them really to know how to I don't know how we are gonna start with for us to remember some Bible verses, some of those verses. So I don't know how we're gonna
Mhm.
start.
Yes. I will highly recommend. First of all, let me go back to what you said. You said lacking element. I will tell you, Michelle, and knowing you, you're not lacking anything when it comes to, even if you talked about God once during your day, it's not lacking. When you're lacking is uh, when you don't mention him. So it's not about quantity. Yeah, it's not, don't think about the quantity or even like, oh, we never read our Bible today, so therefore we're, I'm assuming that's when you feel like you're lacking. So the more you incorporate God in everything you do, just like when you were in Baguio, the more it's going to stick for Michael and Sylvia, I promise, because God is something that it's so abstract, right? And for kids, it's like they can't touch him, they can't hear him, So we have to make him real to them. And how do we do that as parents, to a child, to make God real to them? So it's by the senses, all the senses. So if they see something so magnificent, like a mountain in Baguio, or they're climbing or they're hiking, or that's when you incorporate God, because they will learn more about God that way than if you opened up a book. So the books is almost like secondary. So I would start with verses are excellent. It could be something like Jesus wept. I mean, that is actually a verse. So, I mean, it could be just something simple where they understand it, without too much teaching, right?
Okay.
But I would incorporate the, the the study of who God is. I mean, if you just did anything and everything around who God is, who is he? And then also incorporate a study where who are you? Who am I? Who is Michael? Why am I born? Why did God make me? And so it's who God is and then who they are in Christ. So the two complement one another, because when they have an understanding of who God is, and then the next study becomes who I am, then you can incorporate the two. And how awesome is that? Then they
Yeah.
know their purpose in life. They know why they're created. They know why they have hands or feet or their mouth. They speak because ultimately they want to bring glory to God or to share with others about Christ. Why do Yes.
Yeah, sorry to cut you, but Marisa, that book we have not used it. I was meant to ask you, what on earth can I do? You think that's a good, I you gave me that book. You were so generous to give me that book. What on earth can I do? That series.
Yes. That is an
Yeah.
excellent series.
Do you think I could start now with them or?
Absolutely. In fact, I'm so glad you brought that up, because that is more on those books are focused on exactly what I'm just talking about.
Yeah, but I only have one, right? And that's that one. The what on earth can I do? I think it's more on. I know I have read it, just not the whole book, but just a few pages. So I was thinking, I don't know if we should start with this or we should start with something else. So I really actually have that in mind to ask you. But you're
Yes.
so I, that is because that's very nice, man. I know it's about God's story, your story.
Yes. Definitely start there. Boy, you could use that book for an entire school year.
Yeah, I was really thinking. So how do you use that? Like you read few pages per day, right?
Yes,
Per day.
yes. I would do, gosh, you can create a whole Bible lesson, your whole entire year's Bible lessons through that. I wouldn't give them too much because some of the chapters, all the chapters actually are a little long. Kids
Oh,
kids' attention
yeah.
spans are very short. And so, and the last thing you want to do is make Jesus boring, right? Just like when we were, remember catechism and yeah,
Yeah.
at least for me, you know.
Mm.
And so you want to make him interesting. So by incorporating this book, and what you want to do is, I would read the book, watch them, observe how they, you know, if they're getting it, if they're asking questions, and don't rush it. Please don't rush it. Like, don't finish a chapter and then get to the questions because you felt like that's what you need to do. No, not at all. Just read what you can and then ask a lot of questions. That's where you know they're learning, is when
Okay.
they can answer your questions about
Yeah.
God, right? So don't rush it. Just read what you can, and then just put a bookmark, you know, where you left off, and make it very natural, just a natural, organic kind of learning.
Okay.
When it comes to religion or your faith or God, um, don't put your don't put pressure on yourself to do it how you ordinarily would do it. Give yourself up. Let every time you're talking about God be uh, less structured, and watch your children. You know, God will guide you. The Holy Spirit will guide you and tell you, okay, stop, you know, and wait till
Okay.
next, you know, wait till tomorrow, or ask this question. You know, he will, I promise you, even
Okay.
when you're not even thinking about it. Um, he will guide you. That's one thing he will do for sure. Even when you think you're not listening, because that's the most important subject he wants you to teach your children,
Okay.
right?
All right.
I mean, without that, it's like everything else we're learning is worthless.
Yes.
So, yes, make that beautiful. Make that a time where you're also in a good mood. So, I would normally start with it every day.
Okay.
I would, before you open up any subject, definitely you talk about God first.
Mm.
It could be short, it could even be while you're having breakfast. It doesn't have.
Yeah, because that's what we do, breakfast, and then right after we read the gospel for the day. But so after the gospel, we could also incorporate that, right?
Yes,
More.
yes.
Mm.
You can also incorporate that book at night. You know, that seems like when they're slaying on their bed. Um,
Mm-mm.
that would be a good bedtime also. So
Okay.
let's say you never got to it during the day. Yeah, just incorporate it during nighttime. With
All
both
right.
of them laying down. Maybe you just put them on the bed, and then depending on where they sleep, you can separate them after. But just put
Mm.
them on the bed, sit down with them, and then yeah, and then talk about that.
Okay. All
Hmm.
right.
Yes, and
Because we
so
haven't used it yet, and I was thinking, oh, that's okay.
and Michelle, I love that you start the morning with God, because in the Bible it says that you know, there's the word tithe, and this might be a good lesson too. So tithe is 1/10, and God asks us. He doesn't force us, but ideally we give 1/10 of everything we have. So our money, when we get a check or anything, we always give him first, right? It's not because he needs it. Obviously, he owns everything, but it's so that we can learn to give sacrificially. And so part of that tithe is also our time.
Okay.
And tithe means the first 1/10, the first 1/10. So when we wake up in the morning, the first is our time, right? So that's why we make it a habit to always talk about God when we wake up, because it's actually biblical. It's the first thing, it's when we put our feet on the ground, because we realize during that time, that very first 1/10 of our time, that we can't live without him, right?
Mm.
That nothing is possible without him. The air that we breathe, that you can go on and on, but that might be why you might want to put reasoning behind why we start with God every day.
Okay. All right.
You know, you don't ever want to make it legalistic where we must do this, we must do that, you know, because then they're going to look at God that way. Um, and God's not that way. He's very kind and he's a gentleman and he doesn't ever force us to do anything.
Yeah.
But the laws are there because to protect us, right? So we don't
Yes.
cross the street without looking both ways or without holding mommy's hand. It's not because I want to be mean, it's because this is to protect you, you know. So incorporating that. Um,
Okay. All right.
Excellent.
Thank you. I now have, clearer idea on how to go about it.
Wonderful. So let's just so far summarize actually let's summarize when we get toward the end of our call, but let's talk about any challenges or anything you want to discuss.
Um, I think for now we are slowly, well, always the challenge always is on me, not trying, I mean, that schedule, not really starting on time.
That's okay.
The But then I'm more, what do you call this, forgiving of myself as long as the kids are also kind of occupied with, I know they're also learning along the way. Right now we have so many chicks in the house, so yeah,
Oh, wow.
yeah. We have the chickens. I think we have six who are broody, and we have currently 10 chicks that they have to care for. So a
Wow.
reason, so they get up very early in the morning, and then really, because the caring of the chicken not mine, so they really have the full hand of raising them with their father.
That
So
is beautiful. Michelle, I love that.
yeah, that's those are their pets. They call it their pets because each chick has their, in the hands, they all have names, and they really have the responsibility. And Sylvia is really very, with that. So she makes sure that they have food and water all the time, and the schedule for them to eat and so forth. So actually, it's kind of also nice. They have become more responsible raising chickens.
Is
Yeah.
beautiful. Don't ever, yeah, let those chickens live until. Wow, that's a beautiful. I love pets. I think they teach us so much, not only as adults, but definitely children.
Yes. But then, yeah, I think it's really more on also the scheduling. I think that's it. But then I think we're slowly getting there. I no longer have that big crocodile tears that I don't have anything to serve them for the meals. Do you remember that?
Yes.
So I just consider that a major accomplishment, waking up and knowing really what to prepare, and not having starving family members.
And
But
how you overcame that. Tell me again how you overcame that, just so it sits with you.
yeah, that your suggestion was so easy when you said just stock up, right? Just have to make sure that we have the meat, because I realized the last time, it was so difficult because to create a menu, plan ahead, and then opening the fridge and there's really empty freezers and so forth. So you suggested, just have to stock eggs and spaghetti. I started with that, but then now I have more menu. I have now more dishes that I could prepare, and then I have learned, which ones are easy to prepare, and that's what I am sticking on. Of course, the balanced vegetables, fish, so forth. So actually, it was easy if I just, have all those items in the ref, and then, overstock. I need to have this number of cheese. I need to have this number of pasta and so forth. So it actually created all those. I mean, just having everything there, and then having a lot of new dishes that are easy to prepare that I have learned how to cook already. So that kind of eliminated that problem.
Wonderful. And Michelle, every time, so have a little, and I don't know if I can't remember if I gave you this tip, but have a little, a piece of paper, like a little notebook right by your kitchen. And every time you grab a pasta, right, you're always stopped. Good for you. But every time you're running out, like close to running out, not totally, just write it down. So that paper could be there, and it's gradually adding the things that you're running, that you're using.
Okay.
And that's, so every time you go to the grocery store, you just grab that paper
Just grab it.
without
All
even
right.
thinking about it, right? Because you've already been listing all this time.
Yes.
So the minute the supply goes down, write it down and just leave that paper there all the time. But that's
All right.
how you keep track, right?
Okay. So that would that would make it more easier. All right.
It's easier.
Thank you.
Exactly.
Great tip.
Every single, like sugar, flour, especially those that they're just sitting in the pantry, pasta. The minute you're starting to go down, so that way you never run out, and you're never like, oh, we have nothing. You'll always have something, right? Yeah, you'll always have something. So no, excellent. And maybe that's something that you could just turn around and say, hey, Sylvia, write down flour on our list. You could just, oh, Sylvia, hey, write down even like a sponge, so it doesn't have to be just food, but like, oh, we're running out of dish soap, that kind of thing. Just make that a habit of just writing it down on that same sheet of paper, and that same sheet of paper should always be at the same place every single time. Yeah. And
wow, yes, I like that. Okay.
So everything.
Take the headache away.
Yes. Absolutely.
Wow, learning so much from you, Marisa. Not just homeschooling, but even running the household. Thank you.
Oh, Michelle, I had to learn the hard way. That's why. That's the only reason I can teach it. That's what they say. It's through your own painful experiences. Yeah, I wish someone had taught me this when I was your
because when I started homeschooling, that was also the first time for me to run the household by myself, right? Like no mom, no yaya, no one. So it was really so challenging. But then I realized, well, I'm slowly, getting used to it and getting some, systems in place. So it's not really that overwhelming already. Because Marisa taught me.
And you hit the nail on the head. Systems in place. It's so key. I mean, because you used to work for someone where you had to have systems in place. It's the same thing, except now you're doing those systems at home. You're creating systems at home. What I just described to you was a system, right? I said, every time you run out, you've got to think about, okay, I got to write it down, put it on a piece of paper that sits in the same spot every single time. It's a system. So if the more systems we have in our lives, which basically translate to habits, the more successful we really are. It's based on the systems. And so think about it, the routines, right? And if those routines are always good, then we have good habits that we're developing, and then we're bound for success. Bound. Right? So that's what you're teaching your children, really, is to create systems in their own lives.
Yeah.
But just a little at a time, right?
Yes.
Something like brushing their teeth, or putting
I
away their plate. I mean, that's just a little at a time, but what you're really creating in them is a system or eventually a habit.
yeah. Thank you, Marisa. That's true.
Hmm.
And then there are really days that they forgot or to do it. So it's really, I have to always keep on reminding them. And it doesn't stress me now, that why do I have to keep reminding you every day or something like that? But then, because you taught me that training could be a lifetime job for me as a mom while they are under my roof. So it's just, I have more grace to tell them, okay, you forgot again to fix your bed or to make your bed. But then they are getting more used to it now. They have not really, not really there yet. But if, I really see also a difference in the kids, the way they obey and try to do their chores at home. So yeah.
Well, I think because Michelle, you're purposeful now, because the knowledge that I share with you, you're
Yeah.
actually using it. And so, I mean, it would be one thing if I just said all this, but you never actually did it. So you're actually doing it. And now you're experiencing fruit, as the Bible says. You know, it's the fruit of our work. It's the reward of doing. And so you're just an amazing student.
Wow.
You want to learn and then you actually apply, because there's so many of us, we learn all this stuff, but then we don't apply it. And that's no good.
Hmm.
So excellent.
Thank you.
Yes, Michelle, on the chickens and the chicks, have
Oh,
you
yeah.
ever considered a study on that?
Yeah, we actually studied that before. And then let me just see where else we could dissect. But do you know that twice already we have watched the chick, hatching from its egg? It is so nice. You
Wow.
know, one time I was looking for Michael, and then I couldn't find him, so I went to the coop, and there he was, sitting down, holding the egg that had a crack already because the chick is about to come out. And he was holding it, and he was waiting till the chick would really eventually come out. I told him, okay, bring the egg inside, and then let's just take a video. So after an hour, so we saw the chick eventually, emerging. I think these are really, those memories, collecting memories with the kids, giving chicks the names, and it's really nice. I mean, for me, just for me, I would have a lot of things to remember. There's something that we could talk to when they are grown ups, and then I'm sure this is something they will always remember.
Oh, you're making me teary-eyed because
Wow!
seriously, Michelle, that's why we homeschool. That's why I'm so passionate. Yeah,
Yeah,
because
right?
because when when we're done here on earth, that's all we have. And it's the treasure, right? It's not the stuff. It's our kids. And
True.
to be able to raise them to be godly kids is the greatest privilege on earth. And so that's what you're doing, and that's what you're experiencing. And you're doing it right,
Oh,
well, you said yes. The fact that you said yes to this is amazing. That's all God wants us to do, is to say yes. He'll help us along the way. He'll do the hard work. We just have to be able to say yes. And now, not only have you said yes, you're seeing the fruit so much that you're like, oh, this is incredible. And at yet such a young age, at this young journey, homeschooling journey, I was not where you were at, Michelle. So this is so beautiful. This is why I'm
thank
so
you.
passionate about homeschooling, because you're experiencing exactly what I
Yes.
want every single parent to experience.
Thank you, Marisa. It's all because of you guiding me also, of course. Thank you. And then I also felt, Marisa, no, that right now the relationship I have with the kids, it really also has changed. Like we are closer now, and then I don't know, because before we used to fight a lot, but then now I think it's really less. And then they know that when I'm about to raise my voice, they are also kind of, they know when to stop being acting silly. Sometimes kids will always be kids, but then I think they more now understand me, my behavior, or I think they are more understanding of me as their mom, as much as I also are more understanding of them now. Because, like, I don't know, maybe because we're just being familiar with each other, more familiar with each other already. Because I have actually seen the difference from, because I was working really really full time or part time, and then this is really the first, we're not even a year yet to be together all the time. So I think, because yeah, I think that's also one of the fruits of homeschooling.
Yes. So if you were to encourage, working moms, and sometimes we just have to work, right? I mean, I understand that, and I'm not, I totally understand that. But if there's a way where we can work part-time, or maybe even not work at all for just the season, like maybe a season, um, like you've done, Michelle, how
Mm.
would you encourage other moms?
I know it's kind of also difficult because each has their own challenges. So, that number one reason would be the financial, why they can't easily leave their job. But I could share them my story. When I left work, also I was, during that time, I really was the major income earner, Marisa. I was earning more than my husband. I was my salary was double that as that of my husband. So he was earning, I would say, if I will not work, we would really not survive. But then, God showed me that it was okay. But I really had to pray a long time. I remembered going to church for more than a month every day, asking for direction, because I heard the calling. I heard the voice of God telling me, you should stop working and be a full-time mother. Because my Sylvia, during that time, she was nursery and she did not want to go to school. It was like a 2-month period. She was in nursery. Okay, we did not send her to school anymore because she did not like going to school. So that was also like a wake up call. And then the nun, who was the head of the school, actually gave the final, I mean, I look at it as God shouting to me loud and clear, because the nun was saying, your kids are your priorities. And then God will make a way for you. So that was really just one statement which I really had just to, okay, leave everything and leave it to God. So it was hard, but I think every decision requires that a person must have that strong faith in God, and then must have to believe that God keeps his promise, that God has plans to prosper us and not to harm us. So that's when I decided to, okay, leave that full time for 16, 14 hours a day work, to be with the kids. So past about 2 or 3 years after, so my husband was given a break, and we are here, right? I'm sure, um if he has been given, he had, well, actually has been given this sort of promotions before, but I was saying them it was still not enough because my income was still greater. But then, yeah, fast forward thinking about it, it was really the best decision that I made, saying yes to God when he gave me that, you know, um when he told me to resign and focus on my children. And also, of course, that homeschooling, it has been in my dream to homeschool Sylvia since she was in nursery. So I say that things has fell, everything in its right, places. So just hang on, believe that God will always keep his promise, to prosper you and not to harm you.
I,
So I think for what I could say, if there are moms who also have that, you know, decisions, I mean, who are into that dilemma, number one, I should just say is pray, Marisa, because, if you lack prayer and then you just listen to what the others say, you don't have enough endurance to continue the journey. But if you have prayed enough all the time, you always find that strength in God, and you will see his great plans that he has laid for you. Just my story. Okay, I think I talked too much.
no, I love it. I want you to talk more. Is to pray. But can you continue? Because Michelle, you did pray. And for a whole solid month, you were basically fasting, right? Because you were desperate for an answer. But then you
Yeah,
obeyed. What caused you? I mean, what was it that made you obey and say, okay, I'm resigning? That was huge.
that was huge. That was, I don't know, because during that time, my boss was giving me a promotion. During that was really the time, he said, Michelle, you have to tell me where do you want to go, because I was in a hotel, right? And then he said, do you want to be assistant manager in HR, in front office? Tell me, I need to know so I could so he could position me where. So he gave me, I think, 6 months, 3 months. And after such a very I know it wasn't the right decision, promotion. I mean, working was bad enough. More promotion. If I'd be promoted, I'd be in the office for all my waking hours, right? But then, the career, the monetary, and it would have been very good on my record, right? It would have been like, why would I say no? And it was the general manager himself, and he was even asking me which department I want to go. I mean, who would be given such option, right, Marisa? It's not.
Right.
Imagine that. Like, I'm just one very lucky girl to be given such an opportunity. But then something is telling me it's not right. That little voice inside me telling me it's not right. I really have to raise my children. That's really what it's telling me. And so the major turnaround, really, yeah, that conversation with the nun, because Sylvia didn't want to go to school. And then I realized, if I continue at this pace, and then my children will not be studying well, and then, like, what would happen to my children,
Mm, yes.
right? because I could be up there in the, you know, in the corporate ladder, but my children are not even motivated to go to school. That
Right.
would really be, you know, what would I, it wouldn't be like for me a picture of success. So
Yes.
for me, the picture of success would be, seeing your kids grow up well. So there, so even when it was really that confrontation with the nun, with the nun, is
Right.
that God will provide, God will provide. She said, yeah, okay, she said, your responsibility is to take care of your children. So she said, you should raise your, children. And then she said, you know why she doesn't want to go to school? Because she sees that other children are being sent off or taken to school by their parents. But when Sylvia was in nursery, that was the first time she went to school. Not a single school activity was I present. Can you imagine, Marisa? I have a nursery. I wasn't there for all the activities in school. Every month they have activities, but Mama was always not there.
Mm.
So I said no. I think it really has, you just have to weigh it. And I really am a believer of God giving us really clear instructions what He wants us to do with, He has plans for us. He said that He has planned for each of us. I think for me, God plans me to really be, full-time mother and to be a homeschooler, a homeschool mom. So I said yes, even though how difficult it was. Like example, I said yes to homeschooling, even though I know we can't afford to homeschool. But I just said yes, and then God led me to, those independent homeschoolers. I know it was really risky on me to do that, but then I said, well, if this is the only way that I could start homeschooling, yes, I will take it. And then now I realized that, wow, independent homeschooling isn't that bad, actually, anyway. And then, yeah, I know God will help me. And so God sent me Marisa to guide me along this journey.
Yes. Yes. And then how we met. Oh my gosh, it's all been divine. It sounds like, Michelle, like you just
Yeah.
have been following God. So, Michelle, when you tell me the story of when you went to your GM and resigned. Yeah, I mean, I'm like I'm at the edge of my seat. Like, okay, keep going. And what was that like? And what was
Oh,
your response?
this is so funny because, I just, yeah, because I came from the nun. That was, we were called as parents to she was the principal of that school when Sylvia was nursery. So I went back to the office, and then our HR manager was there, and so is my boss. And then so she asked me, "Oh, Michelle, we're just talking about you." I think something like that. So you have to make your decision. Have you made your decision? I need to know your decision. So because we need to plan out, your movement already. Because during that time, my boss knows that he's gonna be transferred to Manila. So before he goes to Manila, he wants me to be in the proper position where I want to be, to grow in the corporate world. And then, so what I just told him, Mr. Hari, um, I'm sorry, Mr. Hari, but I couldn't take your offer. Um, I will resign. And then he's like, what? Can you say that again? I will say, I just ask you which department you want to go. He did not. It was really like, wow, surprise. I'm sorry, but I'm gonna resign. That's what I said. What? No, I said, no, no, no. Just that nun. Don't listen to her. She doesn't understand the world. How are you gonna survive? No, think about it some more. Give you more months to think about it.
Really?
And then yeah, and then I think a few months after I gave my resignation. Oh, it was really, oh my gosh, that story. So I gave my resignation, and then he was still keeping it. And then I said, in my mind, oh, before I resign, I will have to have my medicals first because, while I'm still covered by the insurance. So I went to have some tests. I had this kind of Adam's apple in my throat, which I had it checked already. They said it was really just an Adam's apple. But then something like mom was telling me, no, you really have to have it checked. So I said, okay, well, I still have the insurance, then I will have this checked. But I have tendered my resignation already. So after that, when the doctors checked, it was papillary carcinoma. So it was cancer of the thyroid.
Oh my
Can you believe that? And then, and so my boss and I talked, and he said, okay, so you withdraw your resignation and then you go through the process, right? So I had my operation, I had my radioactive iodine. Then so when this thyroid was taken out, the doctor saw that it has, the cancer has spread through the lymph nodes. So I was able to get, I think, 6 or 7 lymph nodes that are also already have cancer cells in them.
wow.
So I said, oh, wow. So after that, after all the operation, then I went on for my what you call resignation already. But I said, wow, if I have not done that, if I have not thought about it could have been worse, right? Like the cancer cells could have been spreading all over.
Yes.
So I think it was all also part of God's design, and Him telling me, "Oh, you need to have your thyroid checked first."
Yes.
Yeah. So I know that after that operation, so I said, "Oh, I know I should not be subjecting myself into too much stress already, and then yeah, take care of myself more and spending more time with the family. So everything really has a purpose."
What an amazing story, Michelle. Oh my goodness. So how are you doing now? Is everything
Great. Yes, like yearly. Last last year, the other year, it was okay. I go to the tests this year, not yet. Maybe in August when I go back to Cebu, I'll also have a run for the tests. The usual, they're getting the TSH, all sorts of stuff. But so far, it's fine. Whereas I'm
good?
doing.
Yes, you've been healed. And God does that. So Michelle, oh my goodness, that added another twist to your resignation.
Yeah.
When you finally left, okay, so after all that and the surgery, tell me about when you actually were leaving. Like, tell me your emotions. Tell me what your boss said. There must have been doubt. Tell me all that.
Yeah, he still has, some doubts, but, he was really a very supportive boss. During that time when I was still, I think there was 3 months, I already had someone trained to replace me. And then by God's grace also, this person who was to replace me, she was also my partner in the executive office years ago, but she went to Jeddah, and then she doesn't anymore want to stay in Jeddah because it's really Muslim country. She's really afraid there. She doesn't want to work in Jeddah anymore. So it just all fell into place when she suddenly posted, no, she's coming back to Cebu. So I messaged her, hey, come here and take my post because we're also looking for someone to replace me. She said, are you serious? I go, yes. So then the moment she came back here, so she already had a job also, and it wasn't very difficult to train her because she was also from the same office before. So for that 3 months, it was, her taking over and me trying to just give all the endorsements. But then, yeah, my boss, he has understood. He has understood. And then he kind of said, yeah, he really does understand that in a family, one should, be working and the other should be looking after the kids because it's also the setup for their family. Like the wife also is a full time taking care of the children. So he really understands and he supports and he asked me, the usual everything I need. But yeah, we're all okay. So like after that, I think a year after, we visited him in Manila, and then he treated us with accommodation, transportation to go around for I think 4 days. Yeah. And so he was also the one who sponsored my trip to the homeschool conference, right?
Yes.
So he's very supportive. He doesn't give any, different opinions even about homeschooling. He's very supportive of everything.
That is an amazing story. When I left television to stay home with my children, people always asked me, don't you miss it? Because of what I did. And I would look at them like, no, not at all. So I have to ask you the same question. Do you miss it?
No.
Exactly.
Yeah, maybe I miss doing something different, but then not really working that kind of schedule, the stress and the talks. Sometimes you really have to deal with the environment. Sometimes there's a lot of toxic people in the office, and then yeah, it's good not to be away from that one.
And Michelle, you know how I looked at it? Um, Here I think people looked at me like, how could you say no to that type of a career and then decide to stay home with your children and then sacrifice everything? That's how they looked at it, right? But
Mm-hmm.
I found it like the stuff I was doing with my kids, which was basically just staring at them most of the time because they're babies, was eternal. Like there was no price tag that could,
Yeah.
you know, but it was hard to describe. Like you couldn't describe it, and even in words, right? But what I
Yeah.
was doing was eternal versus going out
Yeah.
and reporting and where everybody would see you, but that wasn't eternal. That was just, that will burn up and destroy. But what I was doing at home was eternal. So that's how I look at it. It counts for all
Yes.
eternity. What you're doing, even if you were yelling every day at your children, but the fact that they're with you, just that they're with you is wow. There's no substitute for mama. There's just none.
I remember one time I really had to go bank errands and groceries because there was no car. So I had to commute. So I told them, okay, you do your worksheets. When I come back, should be finished with your independent study. But then when I came back, I said, Mama, we did not do our homeschool. But, we did this. And each one of them gave me a card that says, those nice cards. And then says, pull here and says, I love you, Mama. So I said, oh, okay. This is better than worksheets. They really know how to spoil you,
That's beautiful. Oh my
And
gosh. Yeah.
so each one of them have that card prepared, and then they were all at the gate waiting for Mama to arrive. So
Wow.
cute.
Isn't that confirmation, Michelle, that you're supposed to be doing exactly what what you're doing right now? It's like
True.
God's confirmation to you. Like even the Baguio trip and how you enjoyed that and how the kids are just progressing. I hope you see that as total confirmation every single day that the decision you made a year ago, um, that God is bringing fruit and rewarding you for that sacrificial decision, and that your decision, you may still be struggling like in terms of financially, but look how God's grace seems to carry you. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, just I see it, like how God is, when your boss said yes to the homeschool conference and paid for all your way,
Um,
all the stuff that I say this with humility, but the stuff I gave you, you know what I mean?
I
It's
know,
God's
right?
grace,
True.
you know?
Everything has been provided,
Yes. And more
especially you.
and more. Yeah, it's a
Mhm.
beautiful confirmation of of the Lord. Um, Michelle, we had such a great coaching. I mean, just really like your story at the end, and then I love how you spoke mainly of the Baguio trip and the kids and what they did. Can I share? I wouldn't normally, but this has been such an amazing coaching session. I think people would really benefit from listening to this. But if it's too private, please let me know. But what do you think if we shared this with THR this
Yeah,
session?
if you think it's fine and if you think it could help others, of course.
I do. I feel like this one really, the way you spoke about, and you shared about what your kids did, I wanted people to see that. I think they'd be inspired, every time you
Okay.
opened up the book and then you told me about your Baguio trip. Um, so I love the fact that I allowed you to speak more in this session. And so you were able to really share your victories, and I
Okay.
would love to share that with the rest of our group. I know this is long, but I think I'll tell them it's worth it. If you just
Okay.
maybe even how many days, just splice it up, but it would be worth for them to listen to this from beginning to end. I would not edit it. It was that
Sure.
it was
Okay.
that good. Yeah, and it's more natural and organic. And I don't think there was anything you said that was very private. Like I was kind of thinking about that. I think this is, yeah, something that a mother would love to hear. And I think your story at the end just confirmed it for me. Like, oh my gosh, this is a testimony.
Really?
You're sharing your testimony is what it is of, this working mom to who you are now. Um, so yeah, I just
Okay.
loved it. And then I got teary eyed because you're sharing that amazing story. And so, yeah, I think this is definitely a keeper. Um, so knowing that, is there anything else you want to say, Michelle, as we end? Anything at all?
Well, okay. Perhaps because at first I really doubted, if I could, I could homeschool properly. Like, there were times that I don't do school for a number of days because, I don't know, I have my own issues. I have my own problems in running the household, how more I could run the homeschool. But then, because, you're not really alone when you're homeschooling. So I'm getting a lot of inspiration, especially from you, Marisa. And also I get inspiration from all the sharing from other posts of other homeschoolers.
Yes.
And then, you just get inspired, and then you just really have to continue and to move on. Actually, there was also a point in my, there's also a point that I felt that I should stop homeschooling because, I am not a good mom. Sometimes I get angry a lot, or I get so angry, then I don't maybe the kids are getting a negative, behavior already coming from me. But then you shared something about that from other homeschooling mom who had that question also. So I erased that doubt in my mind, and then I just said, okay, we just press on, continue doing, and then yeah, just apply what Marisa has taught me, and then always ask God always for guidance, because after all, He was the first person who told me. I mean, He was the one who um told me to homeschool. So I ran to Him and asked for always graces to be able to do this successfully, so that I'll be able to raise my children in a way that is pleasing to God. Yeah.
Beautiful. That is a perfect way to end. It's just exactly what you said.
Oh, thank
Beautiful.
you.
Thank you, Michelle, for also saying yes, that we could share this with everyone, because I believe they will be definitely touched. So what I'll do is I'll upload it into like my Vimeo, or maybe even my YouTube. And then, yeah, I'll share this. If that's okay with you, do I have
Yeah,
permission?
sure.
Okay.
Yes,
Yeah.
no problem,
Yeah.
Marisa. If you feel, because I've also been inspired, so if it could give just a little inspiration for others, then it would be great, right? Giving back.
Yes. Your story at the end. Oh my goodness. I did, because I didn't even know all the details of,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I just knew that you were having a hard time, but I didn't realize it was, my gosh. You know why, Michelle? That's commendable. You were really listening to God, because, humanly, that, yeah, you should have just said yes, right? You should have said yes to the promotion and keep going.
Yes,
You
true.
said no at the highest peak
Yeah,
of your career.
true.
Where man was basically saying, look, choose a department. Okay, another
Yeah,
level high. And you said, nope, I'm gonna stay home with my kids and I'm gonna homeschool on top of that.
yeah.
Wow. Wow. And God
Really
has blessed
true.
you as a result. Not the way the world blesses you, right? It's not of the world, it's the way God has blessed you. Because remember, his thoughts are not our thoughts, his ways
Mm-hmm.
are not our ways. So wow. I think you coached me more than I today. Yeah, it was an amazing call. I love it. I love it.
Thank you, Marisa.
I love that it's that you're progressing so much, Michelle. Every time we get,
Because you are there to guide always. So
I'm
you're the blessing.
no, you're the blessing. So Michelle, when you next week, maybe let's do again another Tuesday, and we'll probably talk more about actual tips and things that you're doing, your scheduling and things like that. We'll get more into that. So you want to do
Okay.
next Tuesday? Is that okay? Well,
All
that
right. Sure.
okay.
No problem.
Same
Next
time.
Tuesday. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and then we'll get more into the nitty gritty, since this one was more of a,
My
emotional,
life.
which was beautiful. But so think if you have any questions or anything at all that you want to work on, just PM me so that I can
Mm-mm.
kind of prepare. And then otherwise, if you don't, it's okay. We could just do what we normally do. So
Yeah.
awesome.
All right.
Okay. Bye, Michelle. I love
Okay.
you and the
Bye.
kids and your husband. So tell them all, give them all a big hug for me.
Okay. I'll do.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye, Michelle. Love
Goodbye.
you. Bye bye.
Bye.